The Sega Game Gear was the first handheld console to take a small piece out of Nintendo's huge market share. While the Game Boy was the clear leader in sales, Sega managed to establish its own spot in the handheld gaming world. They achieved this by cleverly designing the Game Gear to resemble their earlier home console, the Sega Master System, which made it easy to port games. These days, the Game Gear is often overlooked by gamers, but it boasted a large library and some fantastic titles. Released in 1990 in Japan and 91 over here, these are my picks for the 20 best Sega Game Gear games. Now, as always, I try my best to limit this list to one per franchise, but sometimes two great games from a series deserve a spot. Also, I can't mention every great Game Gear game, so there's a decent chance I missed one or two of your favorites. So, down in the comments, let me know what your favorite Game Gear game was, and how did I do at my list. You ready? Let's go.
And now, he's loose. He's a burst of speed.
Number 20, Bust a Move. I think Bust a Move stands proud against any top puzzle game out there, and it does hold its own. It's part of the Bubble Bobble series where you control the vibrant dinosaurs from the game. Instead of popping your own bubbles, your mission is to clear orbs at the top of the screen by shooting matching colored blobs at them. If you match 3, they disappear. The ceiling gradually lowers, adding a bit of pressure, and if it hits the bottom, you're out. A cool feature is that if you clear a group of the same colored orbs, anything hanging above them also gets removed. While there are better ways to enjoy Bust a Move, this is an excellent choice for gaming on the go. Number 19, Crystal Warrior. Now, back in the day, Shining Force and Fire Emblem were the top dogs in the strategy RPG scene, but Crystal Warriors brought something fresh to the table, and I think it outshines those games in certain ways. In battles, you move your character on a grid, and when you face an enemy, you get taken to a different battle screen. You enter your commands here like you would in any classic RPG, and it's a one-on-one duel, but it feels more engaging than other RPG games. Crystal Warrior is fantastic, and its straightforward RPG mechanics makes it a great choice for a quick and fun gaming session, perfect for a handheld adventure. Number 18, Land of Illusion, starring Mickey Mouse. The Mickey Mouse platforming series from this era was amazing, and the Game Gear version really nailed it. It's a scaled-down version of the Sega Master System game that was only available in Europe and Brazil. Luckily, its handheld version was released globally. Unlike Legend of Illusion, which leaned more towards the puzzles, this one was more of a straight-up platformer. Yes, there are still a few puzzles to solve, but they're not the main focus, which is why I prefer this game. As Mickey, you jump, bounce, and even swim through various levels. As you progress, the difficulty increases, and some platforming sections require very good timing. If you're looking for a Mickey Mouse game on the Game Gear, this is definitely the one to go for. Number 17, Shining Force. Shining Force, the Sword of Hedgehog, known in Japan as Shining Force Gaiden 2, is actually the second installment in the series to hit the Sega's handheld. The first game, Shining Force Gaiden, never made it outside of Japan, but it was later bundled with the sequel to form Shining Force CD for the Sega CD, which we covered in the Top Sega CDs video. When you stack it up against other 16-bit games in the series, the Sword of Hedgehog definitely stands out and offers an excellent tactical RPG experience on the go. Unfortunately, the third Game Gear title, Shining Force Gaiden 2 Final Conflict, didn't see a Western release either. And my apologies if I mispronounce Sword of Hedgehog. Number 16, Vampire. Castlevania didn't make its way to a Sega console until 1994 with Bloodlines on the Genesis/Mega Drive, which meant Sega had to whip up its own version for the Master System and Game Gear. Vampire, Master of Darkness, or just Master of Darkness in other regions, did a solid job of capturing the essence of Konami's iconic vampire hunting franchise. The graphics are creepy and atmospheric, and some say even surpass those of the NES Castlevania games, while the soundtrack really enhances the overall vibe. The gameplay is challenging, yet engaging, making it a true hidden gem for the Sega's 8-bit collection. If you haven't tried it yet, or the off chance you've never heard of it, hunt down this title today and give it an honest try. Number 15, Columns. Now, Columns was one of the many tile-matching puzzle games that popped up following the massive success of Tetris in the late 80s. The game takes place in a tall, vertical area where columns made up of 3 different symbols, kind of like colorful gems, drop down one at a time from the top. Players can shift the falling column left, right, or even change the order of the symbols that are inside. Once your column lands, if 3 or more matching symbols line up horizontally, vertically, or diagonally, they'll disappear, and the remaining columns settle down due to gravity. The version for the Game Gear is almost identical to the one from the home consoles. Now, I'm not 100% sure if this is true, but I heard that Sega just missed out on getting the licensing deal for Tetris, so this had to be their second option. I don't want to say their last resort, because Columns is a really fun game. It's just, compared to Tetris, not quite the same thing. Number 14, Shinobi II. The original Game Gear Shinobi is a great game, but the sequel takes everything up a notch. With enhanced levels, smoother controls, and stunning graphics, it presents a real challenge. Plus, the password system lets you continue right from where you stopped, which is an excellent addition. The fantastic soundtrack by Koshiro and Kawashimi adds to the experience, making Shinobi II, The Silent Fury, one of the best action games for the Game Gear. It's definitely a title you shouldn't miss. And it goes without saying, but of course I will, don't sleep on the first game either. Number 13, Mega Man. Now, it's no secret that many fans have been puzzled by Capcom's decision to largely overlook Sega's platforms for Mega Man. While the SNES and Game Boy enjoyed a wealth of titles in the series, the Sega Genesis only got a lackluster compilation that was available solely through the Sega Channel. So it's quite a surprise that a third-party developer was able to create an exclusive Game Gear version. Although it is called Mega Man, it's not just a simple port of the original game. Instead, it draws heavily from the gameplay of parts 4 and 5, featuring a nice mix of the Robot Masters from both games. The result? One of the finest titles for the Game Gear. Sure, it has its drawbacks like a small screen and speedy enemies, but once you adapt, those issues fade into the background. Overall, Mega Man on Game Gear is surprisingly impressive. Number 12, Virtua Fighter Animation. Bringing Virtua Fighter to the Sega Game Gear was no small feat. The original game was a trailblazer in 3D gaming and featured one of the most complex gameplay engines of its time. Virtua Fighter Animation is quite ambitious, trying to capture the essence of its more powerful counterpart while putting a unique spin on the storyline. The whole experience just clicks, making it one of the standout titles for the Game Gear. To everyone's surprise, it genuinely feels like you're playing Virtua Fighter, even if it is a scaled-back version of the original. I'm still amazed that they managed to pull off the gameplay on such limited hardware, but here it is. Number 11, Psychic World. Now, when this game was first recommended to me about 2 weeks ago, Psychic World turned out to be a huge surprise hit for me. I didn't expect much from this Master System port because, honestly, I've never heard of it until 2 weeks ago. When I really played the Game Gear edition, I found one of the most innovative action platformer games of its time. You play as a futuristic anime girl with a blaster and ESP powers as you tackle a variety of stages. Level design is absolutely on point. You're armed with a variety of different weapons, and the game uses an upgrade system that was pretty familiar to the shoot-em-ups of the time. The combination of these gameplay elements and the amazing level design makes for an unforgettable journey. Just missing out on my top 10. Yes, Psychic World really is that good. Number 10, Dynamite Heady. You've got to give Sega credit for bringing their 16-bit games to the less powerful Game Gear. It's a bit of a bummer since developers could have been focusing that time on creating new games instead. but at the same time it was pretty cool to see popular console games show up on the handheld. One of those titles is Dynamite Heady. On the Genesis, it was an amazing action platformer packed with that classic old school charm. They somehow managed to bring it over to the Game Gear, and most of the original content still remains. The main differences are the graphics and music, which is what you'd expect. Now obviously, if it came down to between the Genesis and the Game Gear versions, I'd recommend the Genesis. But with that being said, Dynamite Heady is still one of the best games on the Game Gear. Check it out. Number 9, Defenders of Oasis. Although it doesn't belong to the same franchise as Beyond Oasis, or Legend of Oasis, or the band Oasis, the shared setting and themes give it a similar vibe. Defenders of Oasis is a classic Arabian Nights styled RPG, and it stands out as the most traditional role-playing game on the platform. I appreciate that Sega didn't simplify the visuals for the handheld play, which has helped it age better than some of the other games from that era. The gameplay is fairly straightforward, but I found the story and battle system to be quite enjoyable. No frills, no over-the-top storyline, or hit-or-miss mechanics, just a solid meat and potatoes, great game. Defenders of Oasis is undoubtedly one of the top traditional RPGs on this platform, a must-play. Number 8, Tails Adventure. Alright gang, bear with me, the list is gonna get a little Sonic-y. Tails has not just one, but two spin-offs that focus on the beloved sidekick from the Sonic the Hedgehog series. Tails Adventure stands out as more of a classic platformer, yet it introduces significant shifts in the usual gameplay style. What sets the game apart is its slower tempo compared to the other entries. It emphasizes exploration and has that Metroidvania feel, which involved a lot of backtracking and memorization. This change in pace and overall design is refreshing. I appreciate how the game adapts to Tails' unique abilities, rather than sticking to a standard platform formula of gotta go fast. Tails' Adventure is surprisingly noteworthy and offers a much richer experience than some of the other typical Sonic games. Number 7, Sonic the Hedgehog 2. So a lot of gamers are pretty shocked to find out that this game isn't a straight port of the Sega Genesis game. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 for the Sega Game Gear is an entirely new adventure, and in some respects it even surpasses the console version. The developers made significant improvements since the previous game. The gameplay is more fluid and faster, and the level design has been enhanced considerably. Several classic Sonic features that were missing in the last game have been added back in, like the ability to collect lost rings and do the loop-de-loop. One of my favorite aspects that was a fun addition is the ability to ride in vehicles. Sonic can hop in and out of minecarts and even glide with the hand glider, just like on the cover art. This game is definitely one of the best games on the Game Gear and ranks pretty high with the franchise overall. Now, I'm sure I'm going to hear it down in the comments. It's ranked too high, or it's ranked too low. Number 6, Sonic Triple Trouble. Most Sonic games on this platform were either ports from the Sega Master System, or they eventually made their way to the home console. However, this title stands out as a true exclusive for the platform. It's hands down the best Sonic game available on the Game Gear. The level designs are spot on, featuring some of the finest stages and zones found in any Sonic game. While Triple Trouble may not be as ambitious as the other Game Gear titles, that actually works in its favor. The levels are more compact, and there are some great tweaks to the gameplay. Instead of losing all your rings when you get hit, you only lose 30 now. Plus, there's a cool new power-up that lets Sonic and Tails ride snowboards in the second half of the game. How awesome was that? This game lives rent-free in my Game Gear. Number 5, Ninja Gaiden. This one's a bit unusual. Although the game is titled Ninja Gaiden and features Tecmo's branding, it's actually an entirely original creation by Sega that just takes inspiration from the series. Ryu Hayabusa's moves are reminiscent of what players experienced in the arcade and NES versions, but the gameplay itself is very different. This likely left some gamers feeling left down back in the day, as they were expecting a handheld version of that classic game. Nonetheless, Sega did a fantastic job delivering an action platformer that's full of challenge and flair. It's a great game on the go, and the first few levels are so fun and replayable, it gets a ton of playtime in many Game Gear gamers' game rotations. Say that one 5 times fast. Number 4, Wonder Boy: The Dragon's Trap. First launched on the Master System, Wonder Boy: The Dragon's Trap is often considered the pinnacle of the series by its fans. The game is another title that gets referred to as Metroidvania from an era that the term wasn't even coined yet, offering a mostly non-linear world for players to discover. With the ability to transform into different animals, you gain skills needed to reveal more of the map. While the classic Wonder Boy combat mechanics do remain intact. Regarded as one of the finest action-adventure games ever, this Wonder Boy title was my #1 Master System game. But with a few obscure and 16-bit games still ahead, Dragon's Trap will have to settle for number 4 on the Game Gear. Number 3, Silvens Tale. Silvens Tale, a Japanese exclusive title, stands out as one of the finest games on the Game Gear. Sega has often attempted to replicate the magic of The Legend of Zelda, and in this case, they really nailed it. Many consider this to be Sega's answer to Zelda, and it's a shame it never got the recognition it deserved outside of Japan. You navigate a sprawling overworld, exploring various dungeons along the way. The combat feels fluid and precise, reminiscent of A Link to the Past. The puzzles strike a nice balance, not too tricky, but challenging enough to make you think. Plus, Silvens Tale is visually stunning, making it one of the most impressive titles on the Game Gear. Now, I get that some viewers don't like when I mention games that we couldn't actually play back in the day when the Game Gear was brand new, but it's been a few decades now, and Silvens Tale is practically a masterpiece. Number 2, Streets of Rage 2. It's hard to find anyone who disagrees that Streets of Rage 2 is one of, if not the ultimate beat-em-up game ever. On the Sega Genesis, it showcased stunning graphics, diverse gameplay, and a wide range of moves. I honestly didn't think the Game Gear version could live up to the original, but I was pleasantly surprised. It's arguably the best port for that handheld. Even on the Sega Game Gear, it's an impressive title. Most of the original content is intact, and the graphics have been adapted pretty well. There are a few tweaks, but I think they actually improved the experience. For example, using your super moves no longer costs you part of your life. It's a minor change, but it really enhances the game's flow. Plus, there are new super moves that have been introduced, making this version stand out even more. Streets of Rage 2 is fantastic, even if it is on 8-bit hardware. And my #1 choice, Gunstar Heroes. Possibly the best 16-bit game, also takes the crown as the best title for the Sega Game Gear. Honestly, I struggled to choose between this and Streets of Rage 2 for the #1 spot, but ultimately Gunstar Hero came out on top. Now, sadly, not all the original content made it into this version. Some stages and set pieces were cut, but the core gameplay remains largely unchanged. Once you overlook the noticeable drop in graphics and sound, it never feels like you're playing a lesser game. It's truly impressive how they managed to deliver such an exhilarating experience on 8-bit hardware. Now, the big question is, why was the best Game Gear game ever left in Japan? It's another game that would have absolutely flourished on this side of the world. And that's my list of the 20 best Sega Game Gear games. Now, if you made it this far, you're awesome. Thanks a lot for your support. And if you're interested in stuff like this, you're probably around my age, so get up and stretch your back a little bit. I also have a bunch of videos on the channel, and there's a pretty good sized list in the descriptions if you want to check those out. Don't forget to tell me what your favorite Game Gear game is. Thanks again for clicking on this video, guys. I really do appreciate it. I'll see you in about a week. Till then, be safe, take care. Bye.